So no, she's from Alaska. So hi, Erin. Yay. So come on in, and we'll get started. I'm going to give just a second for people to find me because it was a new thing. Thank you for being patient. We actually had a no sound issue. So in the future, those of you like Erin who are going to let me do an interview of you, and some of you author for the author folk, make sure your Skype is current on the updates so that we can stay ready to go. Yay, Ava joined and Wendy shared. You guys are good to me. So this is our first author interview. We are actually going to see how a Skype scope interviews with a real published author. Oh, that's fine. Erin, you feel like you can come in and go out when you want. I think you probably know. Do you remember Erin Taylor Young from the conference?
I do.
You do. So Candee remembers you, Erin. So that's small world. So obviously we got a little conference love going on in here this morning. But without further ado, let me introduce you to our guest of honor. Hi, Misty. Oh, we still got, yes, Erin too. They're saying hi to you. So they're giving you hearts. Okay, so here she is. Instead of me, let's look at her. So here we go. So you are on.
Hey, so I'm on camera. Wonderful.
Yes, and they're giving you tons
for
of.
everybody who does not know who I am actually a published author, which is amazing. But probably most important to me, I'm a wife and a mom. I've got 3 kiddos from 19 down to 12. And I know one thing Kara's going to talk about is that I've been writing for like 10 years before I actually had my first novel published. So it's been quite the journey. And I finally found a home with a small press, and my second contracted book is coming out later this year. So it's been a roller coaster of a launch.
Yes.
Glad to be here.
Yes.
And Kara, shoot away.
Yes. So 10 years. Did you guys hear that part? And so, here, let me turn you around. Hi, Gianna. I'm introducing Candee Fick, and she was just on. And yes, they say you have a great smile, Candee. So, okay, so what I want to do with you first is go ahead and show you her website and make sure you get a good chance to see. So part of the share the love factor on here is being able to find these people afterwards and find her on Facebook. Yes, 10 years. Weren't we just talking about 10 years perseverance this morning? So here's her website. I'll show you that. There you go. And actually, if you look, that's her book. Cat of a Lifetime. It's a contemporary fiction and it's a sports book. So those of you are on. So, okay, you're driving. So some of them are driving, so they're listening by driving, which is fine. Be safe, be safe. And so we want to ask her a few questions about, first of all, I want to talk about the stuff that benefits us as writers as far as the perseverance. So when I met Candee, she was not published. She was in the journey, and it had been a long time. Thank you, Ava, for putting up the name of her book. And it will be, I'll put it in, when I do my interview thing on my blog, my website, I will have a affiliate link there for you guys if you want to support her in her endeavor. And she has a new book coming out in September. Candee, are you requesting at all to have people join a launch team for you, or are you good with your launch team?
I would absolutely love more people on board for a launch team.
Okay.
They can, if they're interested, they can email me at candy@candeefick.com.
Okay.
That's sort of simple to find.
Yeah.
And I'll just add you to my email, add you to, actually I have a Facebook group that's just my launch team. That's pretty quiet right now because we're in between books, but it'll be firing back up. So if anybody's interested, the more the merrier.
Perfect. So we have a question, and the question is it a traditionally published book, or is it an ebook? So go ahead.
It is traditionally published, so it is available in print and ebook. So yay, there's print, actual pages, if you want to smell it, which, or hug it, which is, as a published author, when I opened my first box of them, it was like, oh, it's me, it's real.
It's real, it's real.
But yeah, so it's available in both.
And tell them a little bit about your publishing house, because it's different than the big, huge. It's actually a small publishing house, which for you guys to know, candeefick.com to be on our launch team. Perfect. So they're networking on that. So you might hear from some of them. Perfect. Thank you, Ava.
Oh, awesome.
And so there is something to be said about these mid-sized publishing houses and these small publishing houses. When I've gone to my last few conferences and learned from people, there are actually quite a lot of talk about these mid-sized companies because they can move faster. They can make faster decisions and get books done faster because they're not such a big entity. So some of you who are thinking about self-publishing might actually think about looking into a couple of these smaller publishing houses. Will you say the name of your publishing house so they can look it up?
Okay. I am published with Bling Romance. Bling as in like sparkles. And they are an imprint that's part of the bigger umbrella called Lighthouse Publishing of the Carolinas. And so Lighthouse would be considered a small publisher. They have about 140 authors total over their publishing history. Bling Romance is just new. It's their contemporary romance line. And there's 3 titles so far out from Bling. So it's small from that standpoint, but Lighthouse Publishing of the Carolinas, and then they've got some imprints that are everything from historical to speculative to Southern, kind of a little bit for everybody.
Do
Plus
they...
some nonfiction
devotionals. Perfect. That's what I was going to ask. Did you hear that, guys? Non-fictionals and devotionals are in there too, which is some of our group. So when Lighthouse Publishing of the Carolinas, perfect. Ava's helping us. She facilitates sometimes for me, and it's super helpful. So people are actually taking snapshots of the screen so they can get the information and keep it for later. Then question is, do they help you promote, or do you do your own promoting?
One thing that you'll find across the board, whether you're traditionally published or indie, is a lot of the marketing falls on the actual author more and more. And so we're kind of in between. There's not a marketing budget per se, but they did give me an author rep who did a whole lot of mentoring for like the whole year between when I signed my contract and when it came out. I had somebody that I was checking in with every few weeks, and we did some webinars, and she taught me everything I needed to do. And when we came up to launch, she was giving me homework every day on what to do and how to do it, and gave me examples. And so kind of helped me through by holding my hand. There's a lot of cross-promoting with a small publisher. There's this group of authors, and so we promote each other. We actually have our own Facebook group, and we'll share and retweet for each other, or somebody will have some good news, and everybody else will chime in. And so it really is a family with a small publisher. So they haven't done as much as far as money toward marketing, but definitely a lot of opportunities and support and information, if that answered.
Perfect. So yes, so they had a few comments. They said that the marketing was the hardest part. You're getting quite a few hearts because we like looking at you and we like hearing about your journey. So, but this group of writers is really a lot of people who are still in the throes of what's happening. So will you please take us back to not so very long ago, since you're only 1 book into it, a second book is contracted. Will you take me back to 18 months ago at the second conference and where your heart was with your critique group and what was happening with them and with all of that? And you don't have to give all of it because she had a ton. And then I also want you to talk about the contest part of how you got launched. So, 2 things.
Okay. So backing up in this 10-year journey, we're going to fast forward a little bit too. I wanted to write fiction for a really long time, but the ideas that came first were nonfiction. And so I did some classes and a bunch of articles. And actually, so my first book ever out was nonfiction. That was quite a different story. But I actually wrote my first novel. I started writing in 2008.
Hold on a second.
Yes.
They want to know if it's Lifehouse with an F or Lighthouse with a T.
Lighthouse, like the beacon.
Perfect.
On the shoreline.
You did it. So thank you, Vonnie, for the question. Okay. Going forward now. That's Periscope for you. It's kind of interrupty, but we'll keep going. So you're on you're telling us how it went with the nonfiction books first.
So nonfiction was first, but my passion was to write fiction. And so I wrote my very first book in 2008, and I had somebody tell me, hey, you need to get connected to ACFW, so American Christian Fiction Writers, because I would learn a lot more from there. So I jumped into a critique group where I got my first critique partner. There was a group of us, and then some people just kind of fell by the wayside, but 2 of us really hung together. And we were both starting out. We both had a book finished. Hers was probably better than mine. She had an agent, and she ended up with a 3-book contract with Whitaker House. We had talked about this earlier, so I brought this for show and tell. Imagine this stack here. Ta-da! And I have books on top of it, and that's how many she has out since we started together as critique partners. And then here is my little stack.
Yeah.
So it was hard to watch all of this and be working with her and being excited. And, you know, so 3-book contract after 3-book contract, and then there's a standalone, and then here's a proposal. And it was one of those rejoice with those who rejoice. I was really excited for her. And at the same time, I was wishing it was me, but I was learning.
There. If you can relate, give Candee some hearts. Give Candee some hearts. Let her know. Let her know. I'm telling her when you guys heart, I've got a signal behind. See? I'll show you. See, this is the little heart signal, so she knows you guys are giving her love, so she can feel it from you guys. So you guys are totally doing it for her. So that's hard stuff when people are successful around you and you're not. Now remind us again how long that process was. Yes.
So the actual fiction part I started in 2009. So that's been 7 years.
Right.
6 years, 6 or 7 years of actually working on the fiction. And so 2009, I entered my first contest, ACFW Genesis. I was runner-up in women's fiction and got 0 inquiries, requests, no nothing. It was like crickets. So I went back to the drawing board, wrote a different story. And so 2011, I entered the Genesis again, and I made the semifinals. And no publishing offers, no contracts, lots of rejections. So I went back to the drawing board again, and I wrote, this time I was really focusing on romance specifically. Instead of a romance thread, I wanted straight on romance. He said, she said, the whole 9 yards. And so I actually had 2 manuscripts completed. And so 2014, I entered them both in the Genesis, thinking one of them maybe will have a chance. They both made it to the semifinals, and I was thrilled. And then they both made it to the finals, and I was petrified.
Yeah.
Because I had only 3 people make it to the finals. So I was in the short novel category, because I was thinking maybe I could get my foot in the door with like Love Inspired or something. And so petrified, end up at St. Louis where we met.
Yes, we met. Did you guys hear the petrified part? Can you relate to petrified? Oh, hold on a second. There's a question for you. It says, did you have a job while you were waiting those 7 years working your way up? So yes, tell us about your job, and actually go ahead and tell them the other thing that's a major resistance in your life that has to do with your family.
I was going to say my main job is called being a mom. My oldest daughter has a rare genetic syndrome. And so there's a mental retardation, developmental delay piece, and there's a whole lot of autistic behavior piece. And she actually this last year, she's 19 now, but growing up and transitioning out of high school into adulthood and what that looks like, and she's not gone during the day. Out a whole lot more, makes it hard to concentrate and create when she keeps interrupting. And then we have our lovely bad days where she gets her name Princess because Princess rules, and whatever it takes to make Princess happy. So that's right. That part of it.
What age? What age is she? What mentality of age is she? What is?
So she's 19. She reads at a 2nd grade level, and she's probably about 10. Yeah. 10. Very, very me-centric. Her favorite shows are Blue's Clues, Frozen movie. She obsesses about a lot of different things. So she's a full-time job. And then I also do legal research for an industrial hygiene company. So I read depositions for asbestos cases. If you've ever seen those infomercials about mesothelioma, call 1-800 whatever. That's called job security for me. So I read and summarize asbestos stuff.
So is it easy to create? Do you have a dead brain after you've done all those depositions?
I totally have a dead brain. So I go escape into some fiction, either reading it or writing it. And so it's like, please let me, I'm really praying for fiction to take off, that this career would launch, that I could actually make enough money writing to be able to quit the day job, as they put it, so that I don't have to read about asbestos anymore. I can read about, football sidelines and dinner theaters and romance and adventures. And,
Perfect. So,
so
go ahead and tell them the rest of the contest and how that ended and how that landed you with or without an agent and then into this situation. Because when I saw her, she was pretty darn discouraged and she was considering self-publishing. And I actually want you to talk about what your thoughts are on self-publishing, even though you have a contract with a small publishing house.
Okay, so I'm going to try and keep track of all of your little questions.
Yeah, good girl. I'll help you.
Okay.
I got your question, Rebecca. I'll hold it, okay? So go ahead. I'm going to hold her question. Keep going.
Okay. So I had entered so backing up, I said 2014, I entered the Genesis with two books. The fall right before that, was really discouraged. It was rejection after rejection, and basically had a heart-to-heart with God, where it was like, okay, God, I'm going to give it one more year, and if nothing breaks loose in the next year, I'm done, because it's been too long. I've invested so much time in my heart, and I'll just read, and maybe I'll be a critique partner and an editor or something, but I'm going to be done writing if nothing happens in a year.
Okay,
and so it was kind
that's
of
mine.
my fleece that I put out there. And so I entered the two books. They both semi-finaled. I'm like, okay, God, wow, okay, I must be supposed to be doing this. And then they both finaled. And so I'm in St. Louis and thinking, okay, God, this must be the time. You're opening some doors. And so I met with, so you have a lot of appointments. And so I met with two agents and I met with a couple editors. I got requests from everybody. And actually, long story short, none of them came through. So I got rejected basically by everybody, or didn't hear back from anybody who had requested anything. However, the name recognition, the experience, the professionalism, it did open some doors. And so about a month after the conference, my editor contacted me on Facebook.
Facebook. You guys, we talked about being a presence on Facebook. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So editor contacts me. I get a message on Facebook, says, is Catch of a Lifetime still available? And I am shocked. I'm like, how do you know me? And then I have this book, and I was thinking that they were a judge in the contest, and maybe that's how they had known. But it was name recognition. Had to have gone to my website, because on my website I have a page that was fiction projects. So I had a little blurb about my stories that were finished. And so I had read the story, the blurb, enough to ask for it by name. So it opened a conversation, sent a proposal, sent a full, and by December I signed my first contract.
Yay!
And there it went. So it was just all of those little pieces of the puzzle went together. And I have to say it was the professionalism. All of those years of watching this and filling out proposals, or, helping her with her proposals, watching the editing process, I learned a lot about what to do and what not to do. And so by being professional, treating people the way I would like to be treated, making sure I was presenting myself the way I wanted to be remembered and known, that actually is a big piece of the puzzle for why I got my second contract, even before the sales numbers were coming in on the first book.
So they're saying, they're clapping their hands, and they're clapping their hands, and they're saying praise to God for your success. They're giving him all the praise. They're saying happy for you and congratulations and all of that. Lots and lots of hearts.
Thank you.
I know her, she's signed her second contract, but and she has a third book about. So talk about the third book and talk about what you might do with that book.
Okay. So I was a little hesitant. The second book that is under contract and is coming out in September, I was hesitant whether I wanted to give it to them as a standalone or save it for myself, because I love these characters and this setting. And so I have books 2 and 3 are all up here. They're trying to get out onto the paper. But because I really have a passion for this story and this series, I wasn't sure about doing just the one, because what if they said no to books 2 and 3? But it was an opportunity, and they were really thrilled about the story. In fact, from when I sent it to the managing editor to when it was at the pub board having a decision was 2 days.
Okay, did you hear that? Okay, I'm going to hold you up here for a second. Candee, I'm going to turn it around so it's looking. Okay, so I want to point out to you what she said about the, oh good, you're not driving anymore. Perfect. Hi, Gianna. Okay, so the small publishing houses, when I said that they can move faster, did you hear her say that? She went to the publishing board and it took a 2-day turnaround. You will not see that with a big publishing house. So, Rebecca, when you asked your question about what the difference is between smaller houses and bigger houses, it's actually entirely individual. Yeah, no, 2 days, Gianna. It took 2 days for a turnaround. She sent it in to see if they would like it and if they would accept her proposal. And when she called to check on it in a couple days later, it was already at a board, which is a big deal. So, Rebecca, I want to address the fact on whether she asked if you go through a small publishing house, is it a way to break in and get in the door versus going in a big publishing house? And there's some pros and there's some cons, and there's pros and cons with every way that you go. So you have to really decide between you and the Lord which one's best for you and how you want to go through. So the pros with the small publishing house is that you're going to get some individual attention. You're going to have less projects to compete with. So the big publishing houses, they're trying to get more work done with the same amount of people. So you might get some undivided attention. But you're also limited to the staff and the resources the small publishing house has. So that's good and that's bad. But then as far as if you can go from a small publishing house to a big publishing house, yes, they are totally just as legit. But as far as like breaking into the market, it all comes down to your sales and your numbers. Is that right, Candee? So if you write well and you sell well, you will have success. So it all comes back to your craft and continuing to learn and continuing to grow and continuing to be persistent and shake through the process of learning. Because Candee will tell you that she wasn't the same writer at the beginning as she was now. So Candee, I want you to talk about being a hybrid. I'm turning you back around again. Do you know what I mean? What you have,
okay.
So she has her first book out. She has her second book contracted to come out in September. And those of you who are offering to help, that would be the book you're launching. What's the name of this second book? Does it have a name yet?
Second book is over me. So Death Over Me. I don't have, yeah, so that one's that one. It's,
hold up a
an
second.
adoption reunion story.
You got a little glitchy there, so you're going to have to say that again. So.
Okay, so the title of the one coming in September is Dance Over Me, and it's more of an adoption reunion kind of story set in a dinner theater.
So do you guys understand? That's a little garbly. Dance theater, it's still a romance, so they're giving you lots of hearts. Can you guys hear her? That was a little scrambly there, but let's hope it faces up. Dance Over Me. Perfect. Dance Over Me.
Yep.
But you have a third book that your publishing house isn't interested in, and you've had conversations with them. And yes, adoption story. Perfect, guys. So what I want to know, so she knows that her publishing house isn't interested in a third book. They've already looked at it. They've rejected it. So here she is published, and yet she's still facing rejection. Can you imagine that, guys? I mean, it's still there. It's still part of the process. She's actually approached a couple other, was it Pelican, and did you try Love Inspired with that one too?
That one had already been rejected by Love Inspired.
Yes.
Before then, I showed it to Bling and then back to Pelican, and yeah, so that one actually has been rejected twice. That's the one that actually won the Genesis, and it's been rejected twice. So just because you win a contest doesn't mean squat.
Right.
But I really like the story. I like the pieces, and so it's sitting in the back burner right now. I need to figure out what's missing. I have some ideas, and so it's going to need some rewriting just to kind of bring it up because I'm developing a brand, and so readers of my stories are going to expect a certain level of tension, conflict, and things, and so I need to bring that one up to where I think I feel comfortable with it. And then I may totally indie publish it.
Indie publish. Did you hear that? There's some of them are still new with the lingo. So what does independent publish mean for you?
Independent publish means that I'm the one who is doing the work. So I will find an editor because you need objective eyes on it. I would hire a cover designer. So with a small publisher, it's their editor and it's their cover design. And they do all the layout and the formatting, and they put it all together, and then they're the ones that load it up to Kindle Direct and iBooks and Barnes & Noble, and if they go through CreateSpace for the print-on-demand print versions, they're the ones that do all that work. So if I'm independently publishing, I have to find the editor, or I have to find the cover, I have to do all the layout and formatting inside, and I become my own publisher, and I'm the one who uploads it out there to the world to be for sale. And so I have more control over the decisions and what things look like, but I'm also taking a higher risk because I'm investing my own cash before I actually paid it. So that's an advantage with a small publisher, is they're investing money in the editing and the cover and the formatting, and they're taking on that part of a risk. Now, one thing you'd asked about the difference between, or somebody had asked about traditional and small. I think the biggest difference has to do, it's with the contract, but it's the whole idea of an advance. Most small publishers are operating with a low overhead. And so I have a contract where I am getting traditional royalties being paid, but I'm not getting an advance money against those royalties. And so with a smaller publisher, you're not going to be getting your, like the pie in the sky fictional, 6-figure advance or 5-figure advance, if you're lucky, or a 4-figure advance. You're not going to get so much cash up front. But as soon as the book starts selling, you typically get a higher percentage royalty rate with a smaller publisher.
Okay, so I am clarifying for you guys. She is talking about both traditional publishing and independent publishing. So we are naming 3 things. We're talking about big publishing houses. They have a big amount of money to work with, and they were the ones who will do an advance. She is traditionally published, but she's traditionally published with a smaller publishing house. And so, but she's also, the reason I wanted her to talk about her 3rd book that's been rejected is because she's considering going to independent publishing of that. Since the publishing house has already said no, unless they accept it after her rewrites, then she is going to do independent publish and use the marketing tricks that she's learned and match the book cover to the best she can to her other brand that she's doing. And then she would market it all herself, and she would she'd be responsible for promoting it all herself, but she would also get all of the profits. She doesn't have to share with either the publishing house or the an agent. And let me see here. So Wendy, I did get your questions on something to do or not to do, and I did get the question about what to do with rewrites. We'll catch those in a minute. Yes, so I just wanted to clarify, and I now want Candee to talk about whether or not she has an agent.
Okay, so whether I have an agent. So at the conference, I had pitched a couple agents, and those didn't really necessarily go anywhere. And because I've been offered a contract and I did not have an agent, there was a part of me that was thinking, right, I've negotiated the contract myself. I'm not sure if an agent would actually help me at this point. And then because I've gotten then the 2nd contract without an agent, I don't have one right now. At this point, I think I would like an agent if I needed some good input for where my career would go. And if I had some more inventory. We were talking about this a little bit yesterday, where it was like, I had some completed manuscripts, and they are all either contracted or out or rejected. And I have nothing else sitting on the table. So if I was to go to an agent and say, I'd like you to shop this book, I don't have anything to give them. So for me, number 1 priority, is get back on Scrivener, get back pounding out the words, and get some more books written so that I have something to offer an agent for them to then shop around and see what doors are open. So, question.
All right. See you later, Gianna. A couple people in and out, but that's fine. That happens. Thanks for the hearts, guys. They're filling you up on hearts. They like what you have to say. So I wanted to slow you up right there because she's saying get back to work. Everybody can hear that, right? if you can't spend all of your time editing and getting ready for a publication and marketing and doing all that, we still have to create and keep going. Stay in the chair, and all 3 pieces of the braid, like what we talked about this morning in the Writer's Encouragement Show. But I would like you to, she mentioned Scrivener, and Scrivener is software. Which book on writing for newbies do you recommend? Okay, let me catch that for just a second here. Create space. Okay. Scrivener with a V. Someone else help her with that. Is it a good choice? I think I missed half of a question. They want a book. Hold on a second. Book recommendation. I got the book recommendation, the other one about create space. I'm not sure if I even know what that is. So hold on and we'll get back to those. I will field all of these questions, I promise. Scrivener. Yes, Vonnie, thank you. So Scrivener, Vonnie, we're going to do one of these shows about Scrivener, and maybe you would be brave enough to help me kind of facilitate that a little bit. Okay, so Scrivener is writer's software that is basically a word processor. Okay, so if you need to rub your nose, now's the time because it's on me, okay? So if you need to get a drink, you're good. So Scrivener, writer software. If you're getting started, I would highly recommend paying the $40, getting it. It's a one-time purchase and you're good. If you want to see what it's about, usually they have a 30-day trial, but the 30 days is not 30 consecutive days. It's 30 days that you go in and out of the software. So it's a pretty good taste and see what it is. YouTube has some great tutorials on how to use it, but it's great for being a holding tank for your writing and your craft. So she uses Scrivener, and Vonnie obviously uses it. I use it. We're recommending it to you. So if you're at the beginning of a process, especially if you're at the beginning of a process, grab hold of Scrivener. It's a great, great tool, and we'll talk about it as the show, as we keep growing as a show and inside our Author for the Author group, we will see more of this. So, but I want her to show you what she uses with her Scrivener, because this is fun too. So you're on, Candee.
Okay, so show and tell. One thing with Scrivener is it has a lot of index cards, and then attached to each index card is the actual scene. And so you can reshuffle your cards and all of your other words get shuffled at the same time. So, which is great for your, like, I need this scene before that one, and instead of cutting and pasting, you just kind of drag. But I'm old school enough that I was showing you this because this is my plot for the book that is currently in progress. So I come up with, I actually have index cards, paper ones, that have the different kinds of scenes that I would need. The hero and the heroine meet, they, inciting incident, there's a debate, there's the sharing about the one who got away, the old boyfriend and the hurt in the past, and then this challenge and that challenge, and then there's a timeline something, and then I need to make sure there's the spiritual thread. And so I put all those little pieces on cards. That's right. And then I used to put them in just chronological order. It was a really long list where it was like 1 to 2. And so I was showing you this. I have this, like, my big poster board thing here. Doo-doo-doo.
Yep, there you go.
I typically have it like a 25-chapter book just as an outline. And so, like, Act 1 is like about the first 5 chapters, Act 2, and then down here would be like Act 3. That's like for the longer stories. I actually flip side. I have the 20-chapter version for like the short novel. But then I actually put these out on different spots, and I just kind of lay them out, and I can figure out the pacing and if my story is going to work or not, or if I've got some big gaps, or the middle is going to totally sag because I have all this fun stuff at the front and fun at the back, and then it's just nothing going on. And so then in the corners, like, see my little, I put a little 1. So, like, this was actually on square number 1, so that's now chapter 1. And so once I've got all my little cards in order, then I go into Scrivener, and I start putting all of this little snippets of ideas and dialogue, and make sure that he does this and make sure she does that. All of those random ideas and notes, I dump them into Scrivener, and then I full steam ahead with the little progress bar that comes across and turns green.
Yes, it does. It has a tracker. That's my Candee in there. Do you guys like that? Do you like seeing her creative process and seeing how she mixes paper with the technology? Yeah, me too. I think it's endearing for one, and I could picture her like a giant, kid playing, cut and paste and get it all together on there. So,
I'm so fashionable.
yeah, so I'm going to try to ask her the questions that you asked her. So if you have another question, save it for just a second. Let me get through these couple, and then I'll ask you for any more questions that you have. If that software she would recommend for the indie publish. Yes, I recommend it for the independents too. No oops, that's perfect. She wants to know if Scribner is for the independent publish too. And actually, I would highly recommend it because whether you're going on Amazon or anything else, inside Scribner, you can compile your work to the format that you need to use to put it into the self-publishing. Oh, you're on camera, by the way, just so you know.
Diet Dr. Pepper, the fuel of writers.
Yeah, there you go, Diet Dr. Pepper. Awesome. So yes, Rebecca, that is definitely a tool you want to use. Okay, so here comes her other question. Wendy wanted to ask you if you had anything you can think of off the top of your head of what not to do and what to do. No, she just wanted what not to do. Is there anything that you can say just right off the cuff of what not to do?
What not to do with pitching or what not to do with querying too soon. I think probably the number one thing is don't rush it. Be patient. This is one of those tortoise and the hare kind of stories. You want to make sure that you're ready because you only have one chance to make a good first impression with your writing, with yourself, with your pitches. And so you can go to conferences and meet people.
She gets my heart.
Approach it. You can approach it and say, I'm here to learn. Can you help me figure out, what's a weak point here? Or what are you looking for? And if you use it as a learning opportunity, it opens some doors and some conversations. And you're not burning bridges or creating a not so favorable impression of yourself. So just be patient. Keep working the craft. I think the thing that I see is people that have just rushed it. They've submitted something that's not ready. They haven't had somebody else look at it besides their mom.
My mom reads my work. Does you guys' mom read your work? Does anybody out there got a great mom in the house? Okay.
Exactly. Moms think we're wonderful, but you need somebody else in an objective point of view. And then, and don't take it personally because it's a business. It's about the money. And if you're not going to sell, and if the readers are not going to find and buy the book, the publisher's not going to take the risk because it's a business decision. So it's nothing personal. I mean, they say that, but it's true.
It's true. Okay, so we have two more questions that I know of. Somebody wants to know when you've talked about reconstructing your third book and going after the spark that's missing that you want to give it, how do you approach rewriting?
I think it depends on what the issue is. So if it's missing a thread, so for instance, the book that's coming out in September, I wrote it back in 2010. So it was 5 years old. So I had to update a lot of my writing craft along the way. But it was written with a romance thread and not as a true romance. So I had to pull all of the romance to the top. And so that meant I had to add some scenes. So on my little cards, I actually had new cards of these are the steps for their relationship. Oh, he's cute. Oh, he bugs me. First kiss. We have the big fight. We have a makeup scene. So all of those romance kind of scene signposts, I had to make sure they were there. And then I had to go back through and pull out, every scene that they're in. Are they thinking about the other person at some point and show how that's growing? And so that was more of like tracing the thread all the way through the story and just pulling it more up to the top. This book, the one that I'm going to be trying to figure out what's missing, I think I know what's missing, and so I've got to figure out what scenes is that other character in, or how can I need a nastier, snarkier antagonist kind of person just to have that somebody to butt up against. And so I'm going to, so I'm basically trying to figure out how could I naturally put them in the first scene? How could I have a little bit of a hint of trouble in the first scene? Where's the next place where they show up? And how can I make that a little bit more grating? And so it's kind of a little bit more, and so that's one thing I love with Scribner is I know I can jump from scene to scene to scene without having to do scrolling through my whole Word document. I think that answers it.
Yeah.
Where it's mostly just figure out what's wrong and where are those pieces where I can then like insert or add a little mention or a hint, and then the whole big read through just to make sure it still flows.
Right. Perfect answer. And then the last question that I have was somebody wanted to know if you have a preferred craft book that you would like to recommend.
Okay. Well, the first ones that come to my mind, I know she's since renamed. So Susan May Warren and My Book Therapy has a series, and so they make the whole writing craft and the whole the structure of a book in language that I understood. So instead of all these big words, it just made it really simple. Like, here's the structure. Here's so it used to be called Inside Out was the first one, and then Deep and Wide, where it was kind of taking the character depth deeper and the conflict a little bit wider. And then she had one that's actually about writing a romance called Kiss and Tell. And so I think I just saw that they're rewording or retitling them to be How to Write a Brilliant Romance, How to Write a Brilliant Novel. But if you go to mybookTherapy.com, I think it's .com. I should have known that.
That's okay. I'll double check on those. I'll try to double check on those guys and stick them in on this interview when I put it on my blog. So we'll have a few of these resources. Susan May Warren is the name of that. And when I get around to telling you guys my story, she plays a piece in my story. So she's quite a talented lady. Yes, My Book Therapy. Thank you, Ava. And we'll double check and make sure it's a .com. But if you look at My Book Therapy, it's going to show up. And does anybody else have any more questions for our guest? Because we're just about ready to be done here, and I want to show you her website and make sure you guys know how to get a hold of her if you want to be a launch team helper for her work. Does anybody have any more questions? Okay, I don't see any coming up. We'll give him a second here just in case. Oh, thank you so much for all the info. Yes, give her the hearts. Okay, this is where we do a round of applause. If you're still in the house, then the hearts are claps. We give Candee a round of applause so she can see it. She'll probably get to see this all on Catch later. If you guys want to see it on Catch again, I'll probably put it in and you'll see it. Okay, yep, we got some emojis with claps and thank yous. Okay, so Candee, besides helping with your launch team, how can we help you? Is there anything you would like us to do?
You know, the author's two favorite things are sounds so self-promoting, but buy my book, but most importantly, review. Reviews are priceless. They matter so much more than sales. They say, I think I read it was like 1 in 100, or hopefully it's not that dismal, of readers actually leave a review. But the way that Amazon does their whole ranking and recommended for you and visibility thing, it's a lot of it, their formula has to do with reviews. And so it doesn't have to be 5 stars, although we love 5-star reviews. It just has to be honest. And would you recommend this book? And what did you like? And who else do you think would love it? And so just even a couple sentences makes a huge difference when it comes to visibility and sales. And so with any book you read, authors would really appreciate a review. That's one of those things that is probably the quickest way to thank an author, is to just put it out there.
Very well said. Very well said. All right, so I'm going to turn you, everybody, we're waving goodbye to Candee, but Candee's going to stay on. I'm just going to finish up with you guys here for a second. I'm turning the camera around. It's on me.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. It's on. Okay, people. So you can find Candee Fick on her website, and she has her My Book table on there. I'll probably link her book, and maybe I'll ask her again for, I think Crystal Payne said a 3 or 4-star review does better than a 5. That's interesting. Crystal Payne, do you know who Crystal Payne is? Yes, they're praying for your daughter too, and all the adjustments there.
Thank you.
So Crystal Payne is a money-making mom. She's a business, save money. She's been writing books, and she's both independent published and publishing house published. And so she's learned a lot about the industry, and she shares a lot. And so she said to them, they watched her scope, and they said that a 3 or 4-star review can sometimes be more, cultivate more than full on. Actually, what happens is that people start to disregard a 5-star interview. They think that the 5-star reviews are from people that are your friends. And so an honest 4-star review, that's still good. They're like, okay, well, this person's at least willing to give it some pushback. And so they're going to believe the person who's slightly negative than they are the person who's bubbly, gung-ho positive, which I still think it's all in how you write the review, and I still can't, I just know how much work is involved. You won't catch me doing a negative review if I don't have to. And I would rather not, if you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all. I'd rather be in that camp. So ladies, we are wrapping up our first author interview. And so if you like this, then I will tell you who else is on the docket. I don't know if she's still in the house, but Erin Taylor Young is coming, and she's a humor writer, and she's also going to talk about Write from the Deep, which is a resource and a podcast for writers to stay in the game and keep pressing forward, and it will really be a ministry to your heart. And then I have yeses from Deborah Rainey, who has multiple books published. I think she's got to be close to 30. We'll find out from her how many it is. She didn't start writing until after her kids empty nested. So she was a late start writer, but I'm pretty sure that she made enough money to provide her college education for her kids. And we'll double check with her and make sure I'm right about that. And then we have Rosanna White, who's published with Bethany House. And we have Kate Breslin coming. And I'm going to get brave when I'm done doing this launch team. I'm going to ask Melissa Jagiers, and I think she'll say yes too. So we're going to start moving into that. And I still would like to also interview those of you who are in my Author for the Author group. The more we know of you, the closer we feel, the safer this Author for the Author environment feels, and the more we can actually help each other and be there at the right time. So, I hope that you guys get the word out for Candee and help her. Even if you don't choose to buy the book, tweet about her, share her on Instagram, talk about this. You know, if you share this on your Twitter right now, it's super helpful for her. It just gives her a little more momentum. She doesn't have to trumpet her own voice and her own thing. And she had some stuff to say that I value, and it helps me not get weary and well-doing. Did you guys find that to be the case? Did it give you inspiration to start? Did it invigorate your process and make you want to like wrap your head around this dream just one more click closer? I will eventually be doing some periscopes about, all right, Wendy, in a month. I'm holding you to that. Wendy says 1 month. Awesome. So encouraging. They're giving lots of positive response that you're not seeing, but you'll get to see on the replay. So I will be talking about the conferences and the benefit of conference, but the big thing I wanted to point out with this one was the contest, because she didn't get any recognition from her contest. She won the contest. She runnered up. She kept doing it, and it felt like nothing. But the little publishing house that contacted her and traditionally published her found her because she was a finalist on a contest. So she's actually the second author that I have found that in this small little world that I know that has actually landed a contract because of their contest, because of awareness of them. Now, they didn't approach them right after the contest. Those editors and agents are busy. Neither one of them looked like yeses. But backdoor, those contests are worth paying attention to, and worth paying attention to who's on the panel and which agents and editors are seeing your work. So they may seem like a waste of time, but they're really not, because you're beginning to build this reputation. So I am not, I've entered contests. I haven't finaled. I don't have any wins under my belt. But I know it's both. You can go through other avenues, but it's worth having the counsel that comes from the critiques that come off of a contest, and you never know who it's going to see and where it's going to be, and what relationship that starts in the slow process will end up panning out into something in the long run. It almost always. In fact, I heard a quote by Thomas Umstad Jr., who pays attention to this stuff because he knows it way more than me. He said that 85% of contracts from publishing house to writers come through relationship, not through open submissions or other things. So it's all about the relationships. Even if you're doing a contest, it's all about the relationships. All right, so Blessings on your work. Be confident in your gifts and talents. Be obedient before the Lord to actually sit down in the chair and get your groove on. And remember what we do. We breathe in courage and we exhale fear. And we are his hands and feet and we let him work through us. So see you later, guys. And I'll make sure you know next time what's coming up on Author for the Author, and on, if you like my author page, my personal author page, Cara Grandel, then that's also a place I will be posting times and dates for up and coming interviews like this. See you soon. Bye, everybody.